Hey guys, what's going on? Back again with another zombies video. As you can see on the screen, it's going to be another follow-up to the impossible Easter egg solve that I did a few months ago, maybe like a year. I think it originally started with Easter of 2021. I uploaded a video explaining the impossible Easter egg solve for Black Ops 3. And I'm just going to sum that up really quickly, just in case you didn't come across it. And it was basically said that the entire story for Black Ops 3 hinted in every DLC and every map that it was taken or played parallel to Cats the Musical, about pretty much Primus and Ultimus going through cycles. You can probably check that out if you want to. It generated a lot of hate, like I've mentioned in other videos following that one, because it was something I decided to do on my own. I used to hand deliver all the Easter egg solves to the big channel and stuff like that. So I figured that was gonna be the first time I decided, so to speak, to like go on a solo act and just put it up. Whoever sees it from the zombies community, it's up to them if they want to watch it or what they think about it. And in that one, I did explain that, like, hey, you know, a lot of hard work goes into solving stuff, and it was foolish of me in the past to hand deliver everything to the big channels that did no work and didn't deserve it. All they do is hate on Call of Duty and Treyarch anyways. So it's something that I decided to upload for myself. And then I said after that that there were other small little impossible Easter eggs that I solved that were in the game and stuff like that. And this is one of them. And I already made this video, but I made it just titled Mob of the Dead Scrap Paper Easter Egg Solve. And I just left it at that. But then I realized when I went back and watched the actual impossible Easter egg video, like you see on the screen, that it was actually included with Jason Blundell. And it made me think about what they've always said, that if the zombies community and the zombie YouTubers miss stuff, maybe important storyline stuff, they'll go back and they'll touch on it a second and a third time, maybe even a fourth time. So when I went back and watched the Tech Insider video that you see on the screen, I'm like, oh wait, they actually included that, obviously, in the Easter egg, impossible Easter egg video. So I was like, maybe it's something for us to go back and solve. So it actually did have another meeting. I know they put a lot of red herrings and misdirection in it. So this is going to be about the scrap paper itself, and Mob of the Dead, how that itself is kind of an impossible Easter egg, and it was included in that video, like I said. Back in 2012 when Mob of the Dead first came out. And that's the one thing about zombie YouTubers and the zombies community. When one person gets it wrong, the zombie YouTubers, like domino effect, all make the same wrong video, which now compounds the issue of there's going to be millions of viewers that are going to get wrong information out there. And there have been people that didn't give the answer, but they said, hey, it's not Shot Gibson, keep looking. But of course nobody looked, nobody bothered. So 10 years went down and nobody solved it. So that's why I ended up making the video, because it's inside the actual impossible Easter egg video. So it's an actual impossible Easter egg. And then again, I do it because just to kind of do it for the devs. So what the scrap paper actually is, it's not Shot Gibson. It would actually supposed to tell us that the whole story of Weasel and Mob of the Dead is supposed to mimic Stan Lee, who made Spider-Man, and the story of how the Spider-Man comic book got created, because the same thing happened to Stan Lee. The fact that he created Spider-Man and he gave it to his publisher. He's like, hey, I created this new character. His name's called Spider-Man. I think maybe because there was a spider in his room, I think the story goes, and he decided just whip up a story about a guy in a spider suit. I don't know exactly what issue 1 is about, but I don't think there's too much that maybe fits into Mob of the Dead. But if you look at the issue 1 of Spider-Man, and then you look at the Icarus from Mars, aka Mob of the Dead scrap paper, Weasel scrap paper Easter egg, they're in the same exact pose. And the same exact thing happened where Weasel presented his comic book character to his publisher or artist or whatever, and he crapped all over it, ripped it apart, saying it's not going to work, it's garbage. The same thing happened to Stan Lee with Spider-Man in real life. He gave it to his publisher. His publisher critiqued it, saying nobody likes spiders, it's a horrible story. They scrapped it for a couple years, and then the Amazing Fantasy comic was going, discontinued. So they said, all right, just throw it in that one just to fill in the last issue, and it ended up being really popular. So that's kind of the story, how it somewhat parallels Mob of the Dead and Weasel. Now, the only thing that I do want to mention is the fact that we never got like an Icarus from Mars Mob of the Dead character. And the only thing I said, and if Treyarch ever watches it or the devs, like Spider-Man went on to be very successful. It definitely had its ups and downs because Marvel no longer owns Spider-Man. Sony owns Spider-Man. So it goes up and down, the history of Spider-Man. But I always said we never got a story of Icarus, how we never got that our version of Spider-Man to see if there would be a character. I don't know how they would do it in fantasy because our story seems to be more realistic, but would we ever get an Icarus from Mars type character in Mob of the Dead or storyline to parallel more Spider-Man story to see if maybe we can create something as big and successful as Spider-Man ended up being? And more of the impossible Easter egg is the fact that Stan Lee Ferguson is the one who wrote, again, Spider-Man. Most people know that he created, illustrated, did everything for Spider-Man. He's the original creator of Spider-Man. His name is Stan Lee, and that's him there. And really quickly, I'm jumping around because Stan Lee Ferguson is, the warden, and that's probably like a little Easter egg. Just wanted to kind of jump around. So back to this where I'm at, and I'm doing this really quick. I actually tried recording it before, and it kind of got messed up, and I spent like 15 minutes. But if you look at the Afterlife symbol, it's basically the Spider-Man symbol turned on the side. It has 8 legs, the Spider-Man logo, and the Afterlife symbol is the same exact thing, just turned on its side. And I think you can see that. I tell people, you either see it or you don't. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes trying to convince you why it is taking inspiration from the Spider-Man logo, just turned on the side. Again, everything is just a big Weasel maybe story of, maybe he was a Spider-Man fan and he decided to create his own type of like fantasy or something like that. And the other thing really quickly, the red herring is, or the misdirection is, a lot of people said it was Shock Gibson, case closed. Again, that ended up not being true, just a red herring, and everybody took the bait, probably including myself back then, not knowing how deep these Easter eggs go and stuff like that. So, next thing is, if you look at Mob of the Dead and you look at Zetsubo Nishima, in my opinion, I think Zetsubo Nishima somehow is the Alcatraz Mob of the Dead remake, reimagining that we never got. Maybe they decided like, hey, Mob of the Dead, it's too early. Let's just give it its own identity. But if you look at the way the bodies are in Mob of the Dead hung up in body bags or sheets or whatever, it's the same exact way it looks in Zetsubo Nishima. Shock Gibson, it looks exactly like him. I'm 100% sure it takes some inspiration from him. But at the same time, it was a little red herring, or it could be like what Jason Blundell and Treyarch have said. There's so many different layers. The average, like 90% of the population is going to solve maybe the Shock Gibson. Maybe the other 5% is going to solve something else. Another 5% is going to be able to figure out that, hey, it was actually based off of Spider-Man in addition to Shock Gibson. And I said that's the thing with zombie YouTubers, is the fact that once they get something wrong, 5 of their buddies are going to carbon copy the same exact wrong video. So now you have potentially like millions of viewers that are getting wrong information out there. That's why I ended up doing this stuff again for the zombies community. I don't hand deliver stuff anymore to the big channels. That's why a lot of them have left zombies. They can't make any money. They can't monetize. They don't want to do research. They don't want to play the game. They literally just want to sit there and make videos and have people hand deliver all the answers to them. And unfortunately, because of the way technology is, that's no longer going to happen. People aren't going to hand deliver. I mean, yeah, they're going to rip off people's videos and not credit them. But at the same time, they're pretty much going to all end up quitting zombies because the game gets too difficult. And it's just stuff that I mentioned in the original Impossible Easter egg solve video, is the fact that the games get harder, people get lazier, they don't want to do any research or solve or do any theories or look into stuff, researching. Like this video is going to be like a 10-minute video, but it literally takes months and weeks, probably even years of research to try and figure this stuff out. So then again, that's the poster. This is a zombies version of that poster. And Stanley Ferguson. Stanley created Spider-Man. The warden is Stanley Ferguson. There's the body bags that look exactly like Setsubo Nijishima, and how spiders wrap their prey and hang them in the corner, and then they feed on them later. Or maybe they inject them with the venom, and then down the road the venom, works on them, and they just kind of feed on them after it starts digesting and stuff like that. So, or liquefying. Other inspirations not tied to Spider-Man is X-Men. And that's how we got the laboratory under Alcatraz storyline, is because in X-Men, there is a movie based at Alcatraz, and there's a lab by a scientist, I forget, that's underneath the Alcatraz prison, and stuff like that. So that's that. And here's the video if you're willing to check it out or interested. And Stanley talks about how he created Spider-Man, how he gave it to his publisher like Weasel did, and his publisher just crapped on it and didn't like it and stuff like that. Told him to get rid of it. Nobody likes spiders, and I think the outfit looked stupid, he thought at the time, or the character design, I guess, technically. And the last thing is, it makes me wonder if Marvel knew about this when they made No Way Home, because the theme for Alcatraz and Mob of the Dead and Blood of the Dead is No Way Out. That's a theme for, if you go to Mob of the Dead, it'll say No Way Out. So I'm just going to assume that they saw or played Mob of the Dead and like, hey, that's exactly the kind of the same storyline. Maybe they picked up on the Spider-Man stuff and like, hey, let's pay our respects back to Treyarch and the devs for making a map that was based on Spider-Man. I'm sure they noticed and pick up stuff a lot faster than everyone else does. So if you go back and watch No Way Home, the new Spider-Man movie, it's kind of the same thing. Dr. Richtofen, Doctor Strange, going through multiverses and different universes and trying to get back home to their dimension and stuff like that. Or maybe trying to fix the multiverse that they messed up. Because it's the same exact story. Doctor Strange, I think, was the one that messed up the multiverse. Richtofen somehow messed up the multiverse with the ether and all that stuff. So it's the exact same story. That maybe Marvel, like I said, I mean, it's been 10 years. Maybe somebody who was like 12 at the time or 15 at the time played Mob of the Dead, and 10 years later they decide to put it in a Marvel movie. Maybe they have friends or family that work at Marvel and decide to put it into the movie. But that's pretty much it. Another Impossible Easter Egg Solve video, and given the backstory of the scrap paper Easter egg. I'll see you guys later.